Pete Souza show, and it's not every day we get an MVP to join us here, but we've got one. We've got Shaun Alexander, one of the best running backs in the history of football, college and pro, joining us right now. He's got the Seahawks hoodie on. Looks like he can still play. Shaun, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Man, it's so nice of you to take time to join us today to give us some insight, not only on who you are, your career, and the Shaun Alexander Award, but also we got to talk a little bit about Oklahoma and Alabama coming up on Friday night. You got to be stoked for that.
Man, for sure. This is like a great couple of days for me. Seahawks, Rams tonight, Bama,
Yes.
Oklahoma tomorrow night. It's Thursday night football, Friday night football. Life is good.
Hey, how like the Seahawks now, it is really cool to see how well they've played this year. How invested are you in the Seahawks as a fan and also as an alum?
More alum than fan. Of course, I have great ties with the president and the GM, and I was very close with Paul before he passed. So I was always welcome in as a Seahawk guy. And of course, no one ever likes to leave. The NFL not for long, and then I stayed there 8 years, and so when you get fired, as I would call it, like normal people, you're upset, but they welcomed me back in, and then they brought in Pete Carroll and the Legion of Boom, and so I've always had just inside tracks with everybody, and I've been put in the Ring of Honor. So I am definitely one of those ambassadors for the Seahawks, and just have loved my time being a retired player and watching those guys grow. And honestly, it's been the same in Alabama. My two professional programs.
That's true. It sure looks that way.
What Alabama was really sweet, because when I did finally retire from the pros, I came down to the Bama Georgia game in Georgia, the blackout, the infamous Nick Saban blackout game where Coach Scott Cochran was like, "This is going to be a funeral," and we go out there and we just murder him. That's Julio Jones as a young receiver, and we got all these young talent, Mark Ingram, and Nick had always said from that point on was like, "Hey, anytime you want to come, you're welcome. Anything you got to say to the boys, pull them to the side. This is your team just as well." And credit to Nick Saban. He's just great at that. He knows that there's many seats on a bus. Everybody's got a role. He gets everybody to come in and play their job, play their role on the team. And Alabama's been that. The president for many years was just a great friend of mine. And now we got a new president, and Dr. Pete's great. And so I'm fully connected with the Alabama family, and we're excited for tomorrow night.
Well, Shaun, your legacy, it's so fun, like knowing you as a player like I do. We're right around the same age. And I remember, you were recruited by Gene Stallings,
Yeah,
right? Like, so you go all the way back to,
yeah,
not Stallings is a legendary coach, and he brought that to Alabama. They won the title in 92.
yeah.
You're a part of kind of his coaching family and that part of Alabama. What was that like to be recruited by a legend like that? And now, I mean, and we'll get forward to it, but now you still have your foot in the program with DeBoer, but then you mentioned Nick Saban. You've really run the gambit. But take me back to Gene Stallings and what that was like to sit down with a guy like that as he recruits you to Alabama.
Gene Stallings was so amazing. I've got so many amazing stories. He was the guy that I was redshirted, back then when they let talented players redshirt just to grow. I was 17 for the first week of school, first 2 weeks of school when I got to Alabama, turned 18. Everybody saw that I had talent. And Coach Stallings said, "You know what? I think we're going to redshirt you. We just want you to be around the program. We want you to grow. You're going to be awesome." And I remember watching, my schools was Lou Holtz at Notre Dame, Gary Moeller and Lloyd Carr at Michigan, or Alabama with Gene Stallings. We're on the sideline. We're losing to either Arkansas or Ole Miss. And I see, and I'm just on the sideline, 18-year-old kid, just watching Gene do his work. He blows a whistle, Coach Jack, give me a ladder. Stands on the ladder. I want the whole team to hear this. I need 11 guys to block this field goal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I'm over raising my street clothes. I'm ready. Hey, I'll be number 9. I'll block this kick. He says 11. Y'all see coaches. Y'all get out there and you block it. The snap goes up there. We're winning by 2. Kick hits. You hear the thud. We win the kick. I'm screaming and hollering. Yeah, oh my gosh. This is the greatest coach I've ever been around. He just picked 11 dudes to go block the kick, and they blocked it. I'm screaming and hollering. I get back into the dorm. I'm telling the story to somebody else, and they said, Shaun, those were the 7-11 guys that's always on the field goal block team. What? I sat there and I thought, this is the greatest coach I've ever been around. Like, he knew what that was going to do to everybody. Like, they all were just doing their job. Get your seat on the bus. It's time for you to go rise up and do your job. And they blocked it. And that was kind of how Gene was. I've told a couple of people the story, but allegedly some freshmen that spring were shooting water balloons out the dorm, and I mean, if I was one of the guys,
Allegedly, and if you were one of the guys.
it could be myth. Anyway, we're shooting it over to this fraternity house. There's parties and sorority girls walking by, and the idea from one of the guys that might end up becoming MVP of the NFL. What if we shot the balloon garbage cans, because we don't really want to hurt anybody, and we watched them explode, and then all water went on there and got everybody wet? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Oh yeah. So we're shooting the water balloons. I mean, allegedly, and it explodes. And then next, somebody turns on the lights to our room. We're like, turn around, you're going to get us. Oh, and it was the local security. And they were like, we ran so much that next Monday. We ran so much that next Tuesday. It's Wednesday morning. We're getting up at like 5 a.m. to just go run. And it's just, the grad coach and us 5 of us that were shooting water balloons. We get to Wednesday, and I'm coming in. I'm walking towards the building, and I see the first two guys. They walk on by. Hey, coach just told us to go home. Oh, great. So then the next two guys were like, yeah, coach just told us to go home. I was like, oh, great. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should just go. Now you probably should at least go in and see. So I go in there, and I'm feeling confident. Oh yeah, hey, we don't, hey, what's going on? Yeah, hey, yeah. So everybody just already walked by. Yeah, but you can't go. Coach wants to see you. Oh man, my heart went from that. I'm the #1 high school player in the country, even though I'm playing great in the scout team, but I'm killing. But I got in trouble. You know what I mean? And so my heart hits the ground. What am I going to tell my mom? So, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? I'm slowly taking this slow walk up these steps to go to Coach Stallings' office. And then he has this big spread set out. And he says, Shaun, why don't you sit down, eat some breakfast? I was like, nah, coach, I'm good. I know you're going to see me. No, eat some breakfast. Coach, I don't even know what you're about to say to me. I can't even eat anything. He's like, no. I want to talk to you about everything, but I want you to eat breakfast. Okay, I'll take some potatoes. I'll take some of this bacon. Okay, fruit, put fruit on the plate. Okay. So I'm eating slowly, not even knowing what's about to happen. And he said, Shaun, how's your mom and dad doing? And we talked for a little bit, and he says, Shaun, we recruit certain type of kids at Alabama. Some will help us win national championships, and others will lead us to the national championship. Do you know which one you are? And I said, I do now, coach. And he said,
Damn.
I don't need you to ever be in trouble with anybody again. I need you to be the one that leads us to the national championship. And I was like, say less. And I just went after from that point on. But that's how Coach Stallings was. He knew the right things to say, the right way to do it every single time. And it was just
are the best coaches psychologists, Shaun?
Man,
I mean, really,
all in your house, all in the wheel basket. He was great. Like, I loved him, and he decided to retire after our freshman year. So I had that big freshman game against LSU.
yes.
291, 4 touchdowns. And, I still remember that the playback watching it, and not another great running back from Alabama. Yes, sir. Put me on that list. And it was just great, him being there. And I still try to reach out to him a couple times a year. He was just great. And then we go off and run it. But that Bama blood, Coach Dubose takes over.
Yeah.
Woody McCorvey was running the offense. And, so Woody McCorvey, Dabo Swinney was the wide receiver coach. So when Dabo goes to Clemson, he takes Woody with him. And like we heard some of those stories that Dabo would say, we'd be like, Woody told us those stories. And they were a great team. Dabo's going to always get the credit, and he's going to always give credit to Woody. but they were so awesome. Offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach, and we were just so proud of Clemson. But they were all part of the staff. Bruce Arians was on the offense. Bruce Arians, his great career. Um, and Ivy Williams was my running back coach all 4 years. He was just, I was just a part of some great men that helped me become a man.
Now, let
And
me ask you something about, and I don't want to be like the old man, get off my lawn, but like when Coach Dubose came, like nowadays it would be like natural for a player to transfer,
yeah,
but really wasn't an option back then when we were younger. For you, how much do you think that helped you staying with a family, that Alabama family, maturing within that program around the same guys, these great coaches, and then also learning how to stick something out, right?
yeah, I think that's a part of it though. Like the kids have to learn that steadfastness, that mental toughness. They've got to learn it in a different kind of way. I mean, from just top to bottom, being able to leave and not have any kind of penalty is it's good for the players in some ways, but in some ways it makes them miss a little bit of that. I've picked this school. I've got to go figure out how to go tough this thing out, become the man at my school, and do other things that I've always came out here to accomplish. So they missed some of that. The NIL. I've been talking with some of the top five guys, the finalists for the Shaun Alexander Freshman Player of the Year, and I was just talking with Julian Sands. He was a
Yeah.
freshman at Bama, redshirted. Goes over to Ohio State and redshirts there, and now he's he actually came to Bama early. That's what it was. Gets Ohio State red shirts, and now he's a freshman here. And we're watching him, and we're talking NIL money and how the shifts. And Caleb Downs won the Freshman Player of the Year from Bama, and then moved over to Ohio State. Just the whole process is just different because there's this I need it now instead of who's going to develop me to make sure that I become that dude. So when I get to the pros, there's no doubt. Well, money and the fact that you can get the reps now, those all change things. You're watching schools and even how they recruit high school kids. They're like, yeah, we'll take a kid that's really good, but a kid that's just good might not be worth it because you can just go get the kid that's good and it's already got reps in college and bring him over. You've got a year experience, and they might be there and they might not. Like it is a wild, wild west. But I still believe that all young men want to be developed to become men. And so the programs that figure that out well, I think Coach DeBoer is a great guy for us that does that. How do we take these young men and help them become men on and off the field and win some championships? You know what I mean?
Because
But
there's something in you that responds to that, right? And I want to talk. I love the idea of you talking to these young guys, like Julian saying, "While this Shaun Alexander Award, right? We're coming down to the wire." First thing, tell us a little bit about, for people who don't know, about the Shaun Alexander Award.
yeah,
What it's made of, and really like your role in it. You just revealed some of it, but like the fact that you're hands on is pretty cool. Like Doak Walker, not his bad, but he can't
yeah,
be a part of the Doak Walker Award anymore. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's
sure.
cool to have the guy who is bestowing the award upon these young men to contact them and be a part of their development. So explain a little about that.
Yeah, a lot of credit has to go to the Football Writers Association. Mike Griffith was a former president of the Football Writers Association. He was the just a beat writer at Alabama when I was a freshman. Actually, when I was redshirted, in the redshirt freshman year, just always believed in me. Would always come and do articles. Hey, tell us about you, this kid from Kentucky that's just murdering the number one defense in the country. And he would have all these. And it felt honoring that he would actually talk to me pretty much every week about defense and what was good and what am I seeing and why am I. And so then, the redshirt freshman year when I take off, everybody's like clapping him like, man, you did such an amazing. How'd you pick Shaun Alexander? Well, he goes through his journey, leaves Bama, Tennessee. I think he was at Michigan State. Now he was at Georgia, became the number one writer at Georgia. But in that process, he became the president of football. He calls me up after I retire and says, we got to get you in college football somehow. I said, Mike, what you need? You know what I mean? You've always been close. You've always been a friend. And he says, well, why don't you help me pick the freshman All-American team? And so I helped him for that year, and it was great experience, watching the other guys, watching teams play, seeing who's going to be that next guy. And he says, we want to name the Freshman Player of the Year award after somebody. And I said, okay, what do you think? He goes, yeah, somebody's name was still relevant. Somebody that had a great college career and pro career beside after their because you get some kids that are freshmen, then they kind of fizzle out.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but we want to get that guy, and then somebody's like, yeah, got everybody be proud of. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let me think about that. And he's like, we were talking about you, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, hey, I like your idea. Let's go with that. So we came with a little formula, and we have 8 things that we're always thinking about when it comes to the fresh player. I'm actually holding the
Yeah, listen. Oh, that looks good, man.
I mean, and so all the guys that get that, and so we have 8 characteristics on here: ambassador, legend, faith, passion, talent, focus, character, leader. But we really pick what the first 4. And the first 4 is talent. I mean, we turn on the film, boom, we can see it. You're that dude. The second one, we say character. We always just say it's like I'm still 40. I'm in my 40s. You know what I mean? And so I can't have you be like, hey, he decided to rob this bank. You know what I mean? And Shaun Alexander went and robbed the bank, and now I'm talking to people about banks for the awards. They're like, so they got to have enough character that they don't embarrass me or themselves and their family and their university. Number 3 is an ambassador to their university. In other words, the university is proud of them. They can speak on behalf of their university. And then number 4 is what we call a legend. And a legend in the NFL just means that you are that guy in the NFL. You played in the NFL. You are talented. And so we are very intentional with their talent in college and the fact that we believe that they're going to be great pros once they get to the NFL. And then the track record shows, we've had 8 winners, 7 winners, and this is going to be the 8th year. And Trevor Lawrence was our first one at Clemson, and he's out there in Jacksonville. They got a great record this year. Kenneth Gainwell's running back at Pittsburgh. He won Super Bowl with the Eagles. He was out of Memphis. Will Anderson, Bama defensive
Oh
end,
yeah.
Houston, doing his thing. Brock Bowers was with Georgia tight end, and now he's with the Raiders. He's already got the rookie Raiders tight end record already.
Yeah, he's the bright spot there for those guys.
Oh, yeah, no. Then Drake Mays with North Carolina, but now he's in New
He's
England.
in the MVP conversation like you.
Once again, then you got the 2 guys who are still in college. Caleb Downs, who was a safety at Bama, went to Ohio State. Now he's there. He'll be a top 5 pick this year. And then you got last year Colin Simmons, defensive end at Texas, and you watch him play, and you're like, yeah, he's gonna play in the pros for many years. And so our idea and our formula was really there, and the hidden nugget that we've had was we're going to build a relationship with these guys because we want them to be as dominant as they are in football, dominant when they get done with football. And I try to keep the circle for everybody that makes it in the semifinals. We call it the Fab 14. Fab 14, top 5 finalists, and the winner. I try to hold all those guys into some kind of relationship with me or my staff or team to really just make sure that they don't mess the huge opportunity they have in front of them financially, athletically, just, these kids jump off in life and they're millionaires before they're teenagers now, And so we're like, hey, let's make sure that we have a plan that when you're 40, you can look back and see your wife and kids and be proud of what you got, that you can look back and look at your career and be proud of what you've done. And you can look into your future and be like, yep, we got a plan for 50 and 60. This thing's going to be awesome. That you don't be like, oh, I've only got glory days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you talk to these guys, like you're talking to Julian saying, are you imparting that wisdom from you to him, or are you almost like, is it almost like a little bit of an interview because you're getting to know these guys?
I'm getting to know them at the beginning, but there's no wrong answers. You know what I mean? I want them to be who they are. You know what I mean? And some of these dudes are just awesome dudes. You know what I mean? And some of the dudes have been raised from very tough backgrounds, and some of the guys have insecurities just like anybody else. But few of them know what to do with it. You know what I mean? And so I was that same way where, man, I was very thankful for being in Alabama. I had the right people around me to help me become the man that I was created to become. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about this freshman award and that conversation around the water balloons that some guy that won the MVP had with Gene Stallings really is sort of a benchmark, I would imagine, for you and your journey and your path, that you're able to give these guys similar advice and to share stories like that with them and an understanding of like, this is what it takes to be elite, dude.
That's it.
Yeah.
We just want people to. I tell them we want you to be elite, and I want you to learn how to be the CEO of your own life. You know,
Yeah.
because if you figure that out, man, like the whole world's gonna be a better place, and we want that. And so it's really cool, watching those first seven guys play and watching them take the twists and turns of life that makes them become better, making better decisions, making the correct decisions, all the way through. I get fired up. This year, one of the guys that was in the Fab 14 I had coming was Drew, the quarterback at Pitt, and watching him just get better each week by week was just an awesome time for just
How much football are you watching around this?
I'm selective. You know what I mean? I'll get the
Yeah.
pick. I've got a great team. The whole Maxwell Football Club, they're amazing. Like
Yes.
they really help pick the award. You know what I mean? They've got all the Bolitnikovs and the Doak Walkers and the Outland Awards. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put that on myself. I actually enjoy do what I do, which is build the relationships to make sure that these boys one day can pass that legacy on too.
Let's go back to your career when you were a young guy at Alabama. I won't keep you for too much longer, but I want to ask a little bit about, as we ramp up to this game on Friday night, when you arrive at Alabama, what was your number one memory about the culture that you were becoming a part of? Like the aura of Alabama, it's different than almost anywhere else on the planet. Can
Yeah.
you share that to someone or describe it to someone who has no idea what that's like?
Yeah, my top three schools was Alabama, Michigan, and Notre Dame. And so I remember being at Notre Dame. Lou Holtz was the coach, and he said, "Hey, it was me and these two other guys. You're Mr. Kentucky, Shaun. You got Mr. Ohio, Mr. West Virginia with us. You three guys come to my school. We'll win that championship 3 years in a row." And I'm like, "Okay, I know I've got some talent. I'm gonna keep it humble. Who are you two guys?" Mr. Ohio, Charles Woodson, Mr. West Virginia, Randy Moss. There was no cell phones back in the day. I would have tried to pull both of the boys to Bama. You know what I mean? But but the cultures of your school, Notre Dame was amazing. The culture of Michigan, it was amazing. And I went down to Alabama, and it was just more than both of those places. You know what I mean? No shun against Notre Dame, no shun against Michigan, no shun against Ohio State. It was just different in Alabama. You saw even then what everybody talks about feels new now with the tradition that Nick Saban, man, this is 100 years of just winning football. You know what I mean? Like they won in 1920, they won in the 40s, they won in the 50s, they won in the 60s, they won in the 70s, they won in the 90s, they won in '09 with Saban, they won a bunch of them in the teens. Yeah, it's just this is what Bama does. You know what I mean? And so I was like, oh, this is a whole nother animal. And I like that kind of pressure. You know what I mean? Like what does toughness really look like? What
Well,
is it
and you were the guy, Shaun, you carried the football a lot.
for sure?
And what is it like to be, what kind of responsibility is that to be the guy who is prolific and produces at a school of that ilk when every single Saturday is like this religious experience? Like,
Yeah.
how do you handle that pressure?
You gotta want it. Like not everybody wants that. You know what I mean? And what is that? That's what say, what does that toughness really look like? So sometimes people just think tough, like I'm a smiler. I'm gonna look at you and be like, yo, dude, you're my guy, I love you. But you, toughness is different when them bullets are flying. Like you gotta look people straight in the eye and be like, do you really want some of this? Because I definitely do. You know what I mean? Not everybody's willing to go through that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people think the tougher guy is the guy that is the guy with the most muscles or the guy that cusses the most. Man, at the end of the day, like you got to be able to look yourself in the eye, and you got to be able to look. Sometimes it sounds like tough, death in the eye. Like, man, I'm willing to run through a wall to make sure we win this game. Not everybody's willing to go do that.
Where does that come from?
Some of it is how you were raised. Some of it is the desire to be the greatest, and it's more than just talk. There's something that says like, man, I refuse to not be the best. And when I got to Seattle, I was in shock. My high school was ranked nationally. Little small school out of Kentucky, nationally ranked. Go to Bama, nationally ranked. I got to Seattle, and they had more in their 25 years. They had more 8-8 records than any other program. I was like, no. We're not doing average, no. And so you look at what Seattle is now. Took a great team. We had the great players, Coach Holmgren, the great genius from the Bill Walsh system, the Green Bay Packers, So it took a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but you still need a couple guys that's just like, we're not losing.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
you are that dude, right? I mean, I'll say it. Okay, a couple more things about this game. When you think about Alabama, Oklahoma, what about this Alabama team that you have seen so far this year makes you think, wow, this team really, they're in the playoff, regardless of how they got in the playoff, and they're Alabama. So you got the horses and you got a great coach. What do you think is unique about this team that can enable them to really make a serious title run, starting with Friday night's game?
See, Alabama's still Alabama. And the one thing is just like when I was the third string running back, you just never know when that opportunity of that guy that's a 5-star can actually get on the field. If Coach DeBoer turns around and grabs the right guy that wants to seize the moment, the whole program changes just like that. And
Yeah.
so we got horses in that stable, and the right guys got to just go make the right plays. And some of it is that player that's been playing okay has to turn around and go play great. And so Ty Simpson, he went through that in the middle of the season. He was good, but he decided he was going to carry it for a while, and he rolled off and just went on a thing. What I think is defensively, we already can. We fortunately are going to play against. If we beat Oklahoma, we beat Indiana, and it's probably what Texas
Yeah,
Tech.
you got to take like almost the toughest road, Oklahoma, and then you would have to beat Indiana.
And
Yeah,
then
I mean it's going to be tough, man.
probably that.
Right.
But what I do like about that is none of them are known for high scoring games.
Yeah.
So that fits back into the Alabama way. 3 yards, cloud of dust. We're going tough. We're going to punch you in there. We'll make a smart decision. We'll coach smartly. We'll end up punting and putting around. We'll play field position. Now that's that 100 years of winning football that Alabama's known for. It feels weird because we throw the ball so much more, but that's how this team is built. So we'll do that. But at the end of the day, if the game is low scoring and we fighting tooth and nails, Bama's going to make the big 4th down stop and make the big 4th down play. And we shocked Oklahoma. Same thing. And then, but anybody like, y'all believe they're playing in the Final Four? And then it's Texas Tech. You'd be like, now this is interesting because everything says go Texas Tech, but this is Alabama and they doing what Alabama does. That's how I feel we're going to do. Because at the end of the day, it always just turns into Alabama being Alabama. And if the guys keep in it and they go do it, we'll be there in the championship.
What's your prediction for Friday night? Last question.
I'm going to go 24-17 Bama.
24-17 Bama. And then we're taking it all the way to the title.
Hey, look out. You know what happens when that tide rises?
Were you happy to see earlier this week Kalen DeBoer shut down the Michigan rumors? Hey, I'm staying here.
Yeah. He's doing it right. He's doing it right.
Yeah.
He's a guy, great coach. It's just the fact that we're Alabama that it feels there. But Coach Saban didn't win in his first year, and actually Coach DeBoer won more than Coach Saban did in his first year.
Yeah.
And that, but that's just the reality. Like he's putting his system together, his guys. He's also smart. He's figuring out what does it take to dominate the SEC, and we know that those two things don't really happen overnight. What happens is good coaches just win big games, and so he's won in the big game in Georgia. He's taking care of Tennessee. Now we got to go take care of Oklahoma, and it's about to be on.
Shaun, man, you have been so generous with your time. I can't thank you enough, and your work you're doing with some of these young guys through your foundation, the Shaun Alexander Foundation, and also with the Shaun Alexander Award. Thanks so much, man, for taking the time.
Hey, thank you, man.
You got it. Roll Tide. That's it, man. We are rolling. Shaun Alexander. You hear, and I've heard from pro football circles and college football circles that he's such an amazing guy. I can remember I was working with McShay at the Senior Bowl years ago, and it was, I think, the 99 Senior Bowl. He was playing in it. I think he was the MVP, if I'm not mistaken. And he was just such a cool dude. I can remember being around him after that game, and he just had it right off the field, and clearly he had it on the field too. And I do appreciate very much so hearing a guy from Alabama sort of reinforce what I have always believed. Like when you have these teams with these guys, and he and I both referred to them as horses, anything is possible, man. Anything is possible. And they got that winning mentality too. The Pete Souza Show will roll on after this. We're going to talk about our bracket. We're going to talk about our NFL predictions. Yeah. And we got a little bit more coming up on our dinner last night. Scotty winning the big bet. We go to Diamondbacks, and Scotty has a blast. The Pete Souza Show, presented by Stovacics. We'll be back.